All right, we have a conservative, constitutionalist Supreme Court, and it is changing America, and it is in the right direction. I want to talk about it with the man who is absolutely instrumental in making this happen, Senate Republican Leader Mitch McConnell. Senator McConnell, thank you, sir.
Larry, glad to be with you.
I don't think you ever get enough credit for this. That's why I wanted to talk about it. I know you and Trump did not see eye to eye in a lot of things, but he nominated some conservative judges, Gorsuch, Barrett, Kavanaugh, and you drove them through. And you stopped Merrick Garland back in 2016. Don't want to forget that part of the equation. He turns out to be a very, very lefty guy. And this is changing America. And their decisions this year are changing America. And I would like for you to talk about it and share with us your views.
Well, I did choose not to fill the vacancy when Justice Scalia passed away during the 2016 election. I was the majority leader at the time, setting the agenda. I thought it'd be a good idea to see what the American people wanted to do in their next president. And it turned out very well. President Trump had good advice. He picked good people. Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Coney Barrett. And it is changing America. And, you know, the case that everybody's talking about is actually arguably not the most important case. The most important case is probably the West Virginia case, because what it was a decision by the Supreme Court that Congress could no longer simply just give a generalized punt to the administration and they could go out and do anything they wanted to. Basically, what the court said was, if you want to give the EPA in this particular instance the opportunity to rearrange the entire American economy, say so in the legislation. I think this is going to have a huge impact on the administrative state, the overreach of the executive branch in the coming years. This is like the socialist central planning models that have failed everywhere. You mentioned the EPA, of course, but you got the SEC, you know, thinking it's in the climate business, the Federal Reserve, the Federal Trade Commission. I mean, really crazy, wacky stuff. Yeah, all that's going to be subject to litigation now, and I think the plaintiffs in those cases are going to be arguing. The Congress didn't pass this, didn't give the SEC or whatever agency it was the authorization to do what they're doing. And I think the administrative state in the course of the next coming years is going to be reined in. And Joe Biden has said in response that, you know, he's going to use emergency powers and emergency authority. Does he have that authority? I'm not so sure. Well, that's going to end up being decided by the Supreme Court. Right. The exact same principles you and I are discussing right now. So from an economic standpoint, Senator, this is so bullish and optimistic. Changes the whole game. Yeah, basically stops the central planners, if you ask me. Yeah. Single biggest accomplishment of the previous administration, no question about it, and the fact that we had a Republican majority in the Senate to confirm those nominees. And as you know, Larry, we did 54 circuit judges as well, men and women who believe in the quaint notion that maybe the judge ought to actually follow the law. You know, that shouldn't be that controversial. And you never flinched. You never flinched. Well, what I did, because the majority leader gets to decide what you're going to do, the agenda, the order of doing things. What I always did was to put the judges first. And what happens now? You've got, I would assume the court is settled for a while. Is that fair? I hope so. Yeah. These changes are going to take place over the next, what, 3 decades? 4 decades? As long as they're there. I think you clearly have 6 Supreme Court justices who are highly skeptical about what lawyers always refer to as the administrative state. Right. So, Second Amendment rights were strengthened. Roe v. Wade abortion put back to the states where a lot of us, including me, think they should have always been. These are breathtaking changes. I mean, and it also, Senator, I mean, it really stops, I think, the Biden agenda to transform America into some crazy woke left-wing country. Unless he can get Congress to go along with it. In other words, these things have to actually be authorized. I think that's what this court is going to demand. And many of these things, Larry, of course, could not get through the Congress, so presidents would simply make it up. And judges in the old days would defer to it. In the old days. Well, maybe these are the new old days. Senator McConnell, what are tax hikes dead? I mean, there's a reconciliation bill out there
There's a little bit of confusion about what's going to be in it. Are tax hikes dead? But are we going to have drug price controls and things of that sort? How do you read that?
Well, you know, you and I worked on the 2017 tax bill, the single most important accomplishment of the previous 4 years in terms of the domestic economy. I think it's secure, but they're still going to do damage. They're going to go after the pharmaceutical industry, put socialist price controls in charge, and that inevitably drives down the number of cures, the number of lives saved. This is a huge mistake, but I'm thinking they're probably going to get all their ducks in a row, which would mean all 50 of the Democrats would have to agree to this. We're going to fight it as much as we can, but in the end, this was a process that can be successful if you can get all of your own members in line.
So we're going to punish the pharmaceutical drug companies that developed the warp speed vaccines.
Yeah, that's what they get. No good deed goes unpunished.
Right.
But more importantly than whether or not anybody gets punished, is this is going to reduce the number of life-saving cures dramatically. And that is not in the best interest of the American people.
Next one, is there any way, I'm opposed to this CHIPS Plus bill, but I understand it's going through. I just want to ask you, is there any way to skinny that bill down? I mean, the price tag's gone up to $250 billion.
Well, believe it or not, it was skinny down some. But I tell you, I was persuaded by our former colleague, Mike Pompeo, who has weighed in on this because he is concerned about the national security implications. So different people can take different messages out of it. I happen to be persuaded by the national security concerns, and so was Mike Pompeo, and so on this issue I associate myself with him.
And there's no way to reduce the cost of it?
Well, it's less than it was. It's still more than you'd like.
Yes, sir.
And in an ideal world, if we were not up against the Chinese communists, I would be on your side.
Well, I understand the national security part, but I don't want to go there because I do think it's a done deal. I just want to raise it. Going forward for the duration of this session into the election, your agenda, your thoughts?
Well, we don't get to set the agenda. That's what the majority gets to do. And we are fighting them tooth and nail. They're doing nothing about the things that really concern the American people: inflation, crime, an open border. That's shaping up the fall election as a referendum on the performance of this entirely Democratic government, Democrat president, House, and Senate. How do you like it? And I think the atmosphere could not be better.
Are you better off than you were 18 months ago?
Yeah.
That's going to be tough. I know. Well, I want to thank you for coming on set, and I want to thank you for your work on the judges in the Supreme Court.
Thanks, Larry. I really
Tremendous
appreciate
thing.
that.
Good to see you.